one about ASEAN-China relationship, two about Central Asia, and three about India. And by the way, I must tell you all that when you live next door to a big country, it's very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So it's like sleeping next to an elephant. So even if the elephant is very peaceful, if the elephant rolls over, the elephant can crush you. So it is uncomfortable, and certainly China is the world's fastest growing elephant, which is why I emphasize that the ASEAN countries want to have good relations with China, and they want to have good relations with the United States. They would like to have two elephants rather than one elephant, so that the two elephants balance each other out in our region. That's why ASEAN is also strengthening its relations with the United States too. And on Central Asia, I won't say too much because I don't follow Central Asia very closely. But there's no doubt that as a result of the Ukraine war, Russia has been weakened. With Russia weakening, Russian influence in Central Asia has gone down. And this has, of course, created opportunities for Turkey and China to expand their influence in Central Asia. And I predict that will also carry on.
We are sorry to interrupt you, but before we move on to the next point, we noticed that a lot of you are returning viewers who have not subscribed. If you've enjoyed our content, subscribing would mean the world to us. It's a small click for you, but it makes a huge difference for us. Thank you for your support.
But India, of course, is frankly the next big actor on the world stage. And I actually have an article that was published in an Indian journal called India Today. It just came out last week, saying that India can emerge as the third independent pole in a multipolar world. India will become the third most important power in the world. And it's important to emphasize one, since I want to emphasize the positive dimension all the time. I want to emphasize that the future growth in the world's economy is going to come from the new CIA. CIA doesn't stand for Central Intelligence Agency. CIA stands for China, India, and ASEAN. And I want to emphasize that the growth in the next 10, 20 years is going to come from CIA. And just to support my point, if you add up the total population of CIA, it comes to about 3.4 billion people, 1.4 in China, 1 billion in China, 1.3 billion in India, 700 million in ASEAN. Out of this 3.4 billion people, that's almost half the world's population, 40% of the world's population. Out of these 3.4 billion people, in the year 2000, there were only 150 million enjoying middle-class living standards. Only 150 million. But by 2020, the number had grown 10 times, from 150 million to 1.5 billion. And by 2030, the number will become close to 3 billion people in the middle class. So you can see, therefore, there will be massive, this will all become rapidly growing economies. And India, I predict, will become one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And India already, as you know, today, if you look at the top 5 economies in the world in nominal market terms, number one is United States, number 2 is China, number 3 is Japan, number 4 is Germany, number 5 is India. So you can see out of the top 5, 3 are Asian already, right? China, Japan, and India. And ASEAN also is growing very fast. Again, let me give you one more statistic. In the year 2000, which is not that far away, Japan's economy was 8 times bigger than ASEAN's economy, 8 times bigger. Today, Japan's economy is only 1.5 times bigger than ASEAN. And by 2030, ASEAN's economy will become bigger than Japan's. No, these are phenomenal economic changes that are taking place in this region. And I hope you understand why we feel so optimistic for the future, because we anticipate that our regions is going to grow significantly over the next 10 to 20 years. And therefore, that's what's going to manage the differences. So when you talk about the differences about the rocks and the reefs and the building of military installations in South China Sea, that is very much a sideshow. The Anglo-Saxon media, which doesn't like the rise of China, provides a very distorted view of what's happening in China and a very distorted view of what's happening in the relations between China and its neighbors. So my one suggestion to you is, if you want to read and understand about China, don't read the Anglo-Saxon media. The Anglo-Saxon media will only give you negative press coverage of China and will not give you any kind of... so if the Anglo-Saxon media have been right over the last 20 years, they've been predicting the collapse of China every few years. After the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009, they predicted the collapse of China, and guess what? China grew even faster after the 2008-2009 financial crisis. So you're absolutely right. There are big differences between China and India, some differences between China and ASEAN. And certainly the border issue, as you said, has to be managed between China and India. But I think at the end of the day, if China and India realize that the next 10 years of economic growth can be the best years of economic growth, they'll find ways and means of containing their differences while focusing on their economic development. So the key thing to watch is that in East Asia and South Asia, there's a culture of pragmatism. And that culture of pragmatism will enable them to carry on growing despite the differences, which are real and which have to be managed. I understand, by the way, I heard it on BBC very briefly, that you now have a new train linking Istanbul to your airport. And that I believe the train was built by China. And that 800,000 passengers, I think, will be taking advantage of that train. So I presume that the people who take that train, which is going to go at about 120 kilometers an hour, will get a first-hand sense of what China can do in infrastructure. And I can tell you that around the world, many countries want to do what Turkey has done, to work with China to build fast trains. So Laos has built a fast train, and in Indonesia, the fast train between its capital, Jakarta, and its second city, Bandung, is also being built by China. So the Belt and Road Initiative, even though the United States and the Anglo-Saxon media have campaigned against the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, 140 out of 193 countries have signed agreements with China to join the BRI. So the Anglo-Saxon media therefore gets the BRI again all wrong.
What do you guys think? Do you think he is right when he said India will be the next big actor on the world stage? Please leave your comment below. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you for making it this far. If you like this video, you might want to share it with a like-minded friend. Thank you, and as always, stay blessed.